Welcome to the May 25 committee meetings of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that Council is now web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such, all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Your attendance at this meeting is your acceptance of the conditions that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the May 2025 Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting, the time being 5:28. Oh, okay, 5:32. All right, 5:32. Thank you. I'm just looking off this one. Sorry, the acknowledgement to welcome country.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land that we are gathering today. I would also like to pay respects to the elders past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people from the nations who are present here today, and also extend that respect to all people here today. Thank you. Manangu.
Okay, so if we move on to IPC 2528, leave of absence. So I have a request for leave of absence from Councillor Dickerson. Is there someone to move that? Thank you, Councillor Shipley, and seconded Councillor Wright. I now put the motion to electronic voting, which is start voting, which is now open. Please vote. I will now close the voting. Is that one? Oh, that one. Okay, thank you.
Stop voting.
Okay, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Okay. And now move on to IPC 2529, conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? No, okay, no conflicts. Moving along, we consider IPEC 25/30, Development Activity Summary. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Toynton. Moved by Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Cowley. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further debate? Councillor Cowley?
If I could ask through you, please, any update on those development applications as tabled on the report on page 8, please.
Okay, so to the CEO.
And I'll pass to Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just the some of the development applications, because they're in that table there as well. I can report D23-140, which is a mixed-use development including health services facilities at 40 Cabora Road, Dubbo. It was actually approved today by the Western Regional Planning Panel. So, yeah, that was a great outcome there. What that development entails, it's a concept development application approval, and also includes stage 1 of that actual development. So that includes a healthcare facility, education facilities, office premises, and then also respite daycare centre as well. So we'll look forward to how that development proceeds.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a supplementary question. So that's a private operation?
To you, Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it's a private developer. At this stage in the application, there isn't a mention of an actual provider of that service, but we'll just wait and see how that progresses.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question through you in relation to the temporary workers accommodation. I understand that's the Boundary Road and Sheridan Road, involving, as I understand it, Squadron Energy's accommodation for their renewable projects. What could we just have a little bit of explanation or just a bit of an update on where that proposal is standing? It's there to say that yes, it's going before the Western Region Planning Panel, I gather. I understand it has been put out on public consultation, and that period has now just finished. But again, what did that mean, and what's the next stage? What's the next stage that the public will become aware of with that development?
To you, Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thanks for the question, Councillor Ivey. The development application there that you speak of, D25119 for the temporary workers accommodation project, the actual public exhibition period, you're right, it has ceased. It ceased on Monday. As well, Council received one submission during that public exhibition period. It was an application that was out on public display for 28 days as well. We had a dedicated Your Say page for the project as well. From there, what's currently happening with the application, the internal teams are undertaking their assessment as we speak with the application. Also, Council will be undertaking some further discussions with the proponent in respect of legacy infrastructure items as well that will be hopefully attached to that application. Where that will go and the journey that it will take for the actual consideration and the power that will consider the application, that will be another matter that gets considered by the Western Region Planning Panel. However, it's likely that Council will work towards a planning agreement with the proponent for this project as well. In respect of a planning agreement, that's a matter that has to come before Council following any negotiations that the staff have with the proponent as well. And with any planning agreement, they are placed on public display for 28 days as well. So in that open and transparent process.
Councillor Ivey, did you have another?
Just a
point?
follow-up question on that. What sort of time frame, I know how long is a piece of string, but have we got any idea of what sort of time frame that might be from now until when perhaps the first sod is turned for the start of the construction of that accommodation?
To you, Mr. Jennings.
Obviously, through you, Mr. Chair, obviously with a development like this, it is attached to the Spices Creek Wind Farm state significant development. It's a project that has been approved by the state government, and this is the accommodation solution which is attached to that project. It will be up to the proponent how they want to move forward in terms of timing for how they want to deliver this actual housing development. Obviously, if it does get approved by the Western Regional Planning Panel, I'm probably of the view that it will, if it does get approved, it will be sought to be delivered fairly quickly, but obviously there is a fair lead time with how long these types of developments do take to get developed as well. So sorry, I can't give you an actual time, but yeah, it's attached to the Spices Creek Wind Farm.
Okay. Did I see Councillor Shibley? Did I?
Yeah, further to that follow-up question to that temporary worker camp. So as our director has mentioned, that public consultation has been ceased, only one been lost, one been lost. So is there any future public consultation will be doing?
To Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So as part of the development application process, the formal period has ceased. Obviously there as well, Council can follow along but with the Your Say page and the development application tracker to check the status of that project. And I do also encourage people to reach out and contact Council and my team, and we can explain where the project's up to.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just really a comment on the table on page 9 of the report. Bit of a shout out, I suppose, to Dubbo Regional Council in terms of the average assessment days comes at 49, where there are others much higher. So I'm just really, giving Dubbo a shout out. Thank you.
Any further debate, councillors? There being none, Councillor Toynton, would you like a right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Everything's been amply covered by my fellow colleagues. Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, then I now put the motion. Electronic voting is now open. I will now close the voting. And carried unanimously. So, moving to the next item for consideration is deemed by the Chief Executive Officer to be confidential. Can I now have someone move to defer the item to be dealt with at the end of the corporate services meeting at the confidential session? Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cowley, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Any further debate? And Councillor Kelly, would you like to write a reply, if anything? No. I now put the motion. Electronic voting is now open. And I'll close the voting. And I declare the motion carried unanimously. As there are no further items, I declare the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee closed. The time being 5:43.
I now open the May 2025 Culture and Community Committee meeting, the time being 6:45 p.m. 5:45 p.m. My apologies. One day I'll get it right. I have a request for leave of absence from Councillor Dickerson. Could I have someone move? Yeah, Councillor Wright. A second, Councillor Chowdhury. Thank you. I now put the motion electronically. Voting is now open.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hit that one there, that little envelope, that's it.
Now closing the voting. Thank you. That is unanimous. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No, that's good. That's right.
Okay.
That one there.
So I'd like to move to CCC 25/16. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? As there are no conflicts of interest to declare, I'll continue on. I move to CCC 25/17, waterway safety. Do I have someone to move a motion, please? Councillor Black, and seconded by Councillor Richardson. Sorry. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
Oh, thank you. Only very briefly, everything that the report says there is very sensible, and I agree with that, and that anything we can do within our remit as council to improve the inland waterway safety around the LGA, noting that a lot of things aren't the responsibility of council, but there are a lot of good programs out there already that are available, and it'd be good to see those implemented by those who can implement them with a few safety signs. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or debate? As there are no other further comments, I would like to make a comment that it was impressive to see that the waterway safety signs that they'll be looking at putting in those areas of concern. It's really good to see that that's in process. Okay, thank you.
I'm not going to move it all.
Oh.
So we go through Council Black, the right of reply.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Black, do you have a right of reply? No. Okay, thank you. I now put the motion to electronic voting. It's now open, and I've got to remember how to do it. Done something wrong. Help me out. Go back.
There you go. You vote. Good. Close it off. Stop voting. Done.
I declare that motion carried unanimously. And we move on to CCC 25/18, existing and future strategic mechanisms to improve the urban tree canopy cover with Dubbo Regional Council. Do I have a motion mover? Councillor Chowdhury, a mover, and Councillor Black, seconder. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to briefly say, like, it's a good initiative because, you know, we are all these councillors are shouting for, seeking for more canopy, and I hope this additional fund will reach that canopy target and help our area more greener. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Are there any other? Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate Councillor Chowdhury's comments. I think anything we can do like that, it is just so important that we do increase the tree canopy. Initiative like this will really help. And personally, I'd much prefer something like this, something proactive in getting a better tree canopy than perhaps the sort of result we might get by implementing a tree preservation order. I think something like this has got much more chance of making a positive difference. So I'd support it again, not only for the general reasons, but for that one specific one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any further comments or debate? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. It was just a quick question regarding the $2 million funds from the promised by the federal Labor government. Just wondering if there's any indication as to when those funds might be received and when this potentially might kick off.
Thank you. I'll throw to the CEO.
Short answer, we don't know. The Mayor has written off correspondence congratulating our duty senator. And I haven't actually seen the appointment of a duty senator, so I'm not sure if that remains the same. That comes after the ministries that were just announced yesterday. So we've already followed up to ask about making sure we can get that $2 million and allocate it very efficiently. So we will continue to not just wait, but actually, I guess, ask lots of questions about getting that. They will have to go through a grant process. The public service will have to frame up a grant. One would trust that they've developed and certainly I think because they've been in power 3 years, they don't have to reinvent any bureaucratic processes. So I'm hopeful it's quite quick.
Any further questions, Councillor Wright?
So I'm assuming that that those funds don't come good, potentially this program won't commence.
To the CEO.
A potential government promised it and they're now the actual government, so I have greater faith in our democratic processes to deliver.
Are there any further questions or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, I have a question. Page 18, there was a significant number of missing trees. So if we receive that funding, will that be our priority to replace this missing tree, or will be have a different target? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. I'll throw to the CEO.
I think the commitment as an election promise was to do with the CBD, greening of the CBD. So it's not all the missing trees throughout the urban area. Certainly there'll be missing trees and avenues we want to create, but it's focused on the CBD is my understanding. But the team led by Craig and Mr McAllister as relevant manager will inevitably drop in a bit of detail when it comes to signing the grant deed, and that will tease that out.
Are there any further comments or debate? Councillor Ivey.
Just a question too, following on from the CEO's comments there. So it's purely at this stage for the Dubbo CBD. Is there any opportunity for other areas within the LGA to tap into that funding?
Through to the CEO.
Not just Wellington, but other villages as well?
Thank you. Through to CEO.
As I understand it, the public, and I haven't got the exact words in front of me, but I'm confident without having it in front of me that the public commitment was about the Dubbo CBD at that time. But that's not to say, and I will call attention to the recommendation in the report about other opportunities for external funding. So as we discussed at the Community Benefit Committee last night, there's opportunities, say, for villages where they're amongst renewable energy zones and VPAs, if that's a strategic direction of council, there's these other sources of money that we know are going to be able to be delivered. So I don't think we should necessarily hang all of our hopes on this one tranche of money. I think there's other opportunities, which is called out in recommendation number 2 from the staff.
Any further comments or debate?
Just a question.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Councillor.
I've got my thing on there. Yep. To that recommendation number 2 that we just were speaking to, my question is, it says council actively explore external funding opportunities, which is what we're talking about. On the very last line of that section 2, the last phrase, shall we say, and the implementation of public tree removal amenity valuation policy. So my question is that we're, looking at planting trees, can you actually get money for planting trees from a public tree removal fund? I'm not quite sure if I'm understanding that correctly.
Thank you. I'll have to throw to the CEO.
Mr Arms.
Through you, Madam Chair. The policy that you're referring to is in existence now. I think it was the previous council, if I'm not mistaken, approved it. And it is coming to you shortly for review as well. So the policy seeks to put a mechanism around approved removal of individual trees in response to unavoidable situations, I suppose, through developments that are otherwise brought before our attention. And so the fundamental principle is that through assessment, if a tree is approved for removal, it is valued, like a financial value, through an established formula, and that money then is able to be used to plant offsets in its place. And it's that element that that part of the recommendation is referring to.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Ivey.
Just a follow-up question on that, through you, Madam Chair. Where does that money come from? Does that come from council reserves or is it an external source?
To the CEO.
Through you, Madam Chair. It comes from the applicant. So that an applicant may have a development that requires the removal of a public tree on the adjacent nature strip, for example, applies to council. We can go through a process of assessing that, evaluating that. It's something that we could perhaps take to our environment committee. The exact name escapes me, but that's an avenue for it to be discussed. And then if we get to that point, then the applicant would pay that amount to council, and we can use that to offset its loss.
Any further comments or debate? As there are no further comments or debate, I will start the voting. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. My apologies. Can I stop it?
Yeah, what you're doing is right of reply. Is that what
That's correct.
Yep, excellent.
Sorry, I'm just correcting my path. I needed to go back to the mover, Councillor Chowdhury. Do you have a right of reply? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Now I'll start the voting. My apologies. I'll close voting. Oh,
Stop voting. Done. That's it.
okay. Thank you. And that I declare that carried. We'll move to CCC 25/19, update of the tree audits and tree costs to improve the canopy cover of the urban areas of Dubbo Regional Council. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Black, and Councillor Richardson. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, it's all right. Thanks. Everything's in the report. Thank you.
Are there any further comments, discussions, or Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, great report. Had some really interesting information in there. Actually, it's pretty in depth. But I did notice some statistics in there with respect to some trees that were planted a number of years ago. And I apologies, but I'm just going back to that particular section of the report where it indicated that there was a recent tree planting, page 40, that the 118 trees planted plus an additional 26 just to infill. But from this planting, only 13 trees survived. That's a significant mortality rate. It does say attributed to a number of reasons. What sort of mortality rate would we expect, and what do we learn out of that? That's a significant loss of new trees, of tube stock.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll throw to the CEO. Good question.
Mr. Arms.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, Councillor Wright, I agree. And it just goes to show the importance of having a planned and structured approach to maintaining trees that we plant. We live in a difficult environment. We have cold, moderate winters, moderate rainfall winters, but dry, hot summers. And so it's easy to plant a tree, and it's harder to keep it alive in our environment. And it's cumulative as well. So we put years and years of effort into maintaining trees, and we can go through a bad season or get busy and be waylaid off to other things and miss a couple of waterings. It only takes a couple of waterings at the wrong time of the year, and we can lose the tree, and we lose all that accumulated effort and investment. So it's a problematic situation, and so it underscores the real need to plan our tree planting right across our landscape. I think that's pretty well the bottom line, if I may.
Are there any further? Councillor Ivey.
Yes, I noticed again earlier in that report somewhere there's reference to the Stockholm methodology, which I know staff have given us a rundown on before, which obviously is a terrific method for planting that probably does ensure greater survival rates after planting, but the cost of it per tree just seems to me to be way out of proportion, and for that reason alone, we probably should, I would have thought, abandon that idea that surely there are better ways of getting streetscape trees in, even if they're smaller trees or whatever, than having to go to that Stockholm methodology. But perhaps just a comment on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll throw it to the CEO.
Mr. Arms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it is expensive, Councillor Ivey, for sure. Get a much better result as a consequence of that planting method. Well, an alternative is planting straight into the road shoulder and bitumen around it, which we see both in our city and also in our town centres around Wellington and indeed the villages. A lot of those trees struggle. They're in poor quality, and even the good ones are impacting the environment around them. Through that initial investment, through the Stockholm method, yes, more cost, but better tree health, better tree outcome, and less damage to the surrounding infrastructure as well. And so if we, certainly the report shows, and that Stockholm method is a advocate for, if we put the better investment in at the early stage, the tree result will get a much longer term result for us.
If I could just add, so you've got to factor in damage to infrastructure like footpaths, curb and gutter, so it's more than just the tree planting. And if the aim is to increase our tree canopy, you get a much larger tree canopy cover as well. So it is a compromise, and we've gone through, I think Mr. McAllister has had very large pits to small pits, and they think they've got the scale right. So that's the staff technical advice.
Councillor Ivey.
Just a comment up on that. And look, I don't dispute that it doesn't give a much better result. But, you know, if our budget, which is very limited, means that under that method we can plant 4 trees, you know, that's just ridiculous. You know, if that's the case, then we just have to look at some other alternative method of getting reasonable tree cover within our streets. And I know, I hear what you say about the alternative of just putting them in the shoulder and bitumen, but aren't there ways of really increasing the effectiveness of that by perhaps having some runoff into that area where the tree is, by perhaps having some pipes going down that gets the moisture, collects the moisture and takes it down to the root zone, of planting different species that perhaps aren't as big or as tall as that what we can achieve under the Stockholm method, but it basically gets some amenity value within the streets. And I think we really need to have another look at that, because, as I say, with our budget that we've got allocated to plant, you know, a handful of trees is just not going to solve the problems. As well as it might be the best method to do it, if it doesn't achieve a worthwhile result, I don't think it's worth persisting with.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any further comments or questions?
No, just
Councillor, yeah,
Yeah.
Councillor.
just following on from Councillor Ivey. So what does it cost per tree?
Sorry, I'll throw to CEO.
Details in the reports, and you've got me on the hop where I don't actually have it. If Mr. McAllister, roughly per tree, and I think what we're talking about is like a CBD environment. It's not the nature strips in the burbs, as it were. But Mr. McAllister, an indicative amount per tree, which is a lot of infrastructure, not the tree itself.
Through you, Mr. CEO, I would probably say that it costs us between about $15,000 to $20,000 per tree. That is dependent, however, on the size of the tree. The Stockholm method, you actually there's a formula to determine the size of the root vault itself. The larger the tree, the more expensive it is. Conversely, the smaller the tree is, you can actually then reduce your vault footprint.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Ivey? No, okay.
Right.
Are there any further comments or questions? Councillor Butler?
Yes. All right. So thank you for that information. So it's, yeah, like Councillor Ivey said, it's a lot of money per tree. In the earlier, if I'm reading this right, in background, the present tree planting budget is 104,000. So as we were saying, that's like 5 trees. So it did say that there was a previous figure of 680,000 somewhere I was reading, and I think that's been whittled 41, perhaps been whittled down to the current 104. So it says subsequent budgets reallocated this funding. Where did, I mean, I'm guessing we had 680. Where did the other? I mean, that's a massive reduction from 680 to 104. Where did that go? And can we bring it back, I suppose, is the question.
Thank you. I'll throw to the CEO.
Ultimately, that is the devil's choice councillors have in allocating a budget. So it's a street tree, typically a road asset, and it's a, you know, if you're divvying up the available budget, it might well have gone into road projects and things like that. So that is the choice. That is why the recommendation, the details there to consider, and the recommendation is once we get the community feedback on the budgets and where people are telling our priorities, that's your opportunity to do that allocation within the available funds. I'd probably call out that given that we've got $2 million and there's the previous report identified other external funding opportunities, am I being overly optimistic that there's other opportunities due to our circumstance? I would say yes. And so 104 could be considered to achieve much more given that you're planted in areas where there's nature strips and more natural areas, not the dense infrastructure that's found in a CBD where you need to both protect the trees as much as you protect the infrastructure as well. And that's where that $2 million plus those other funding avenues come from. So just to reiterate your question, it's part of the budget allocation, and that's the choice you have.
Are there any further comments or questions, Councillor Cowley?
If we are planting trees that under the Stockholm method, and it's going to ensure that we get a better outcome for those trees, and that makes them quite an expensive tree, then that's an asset for council. Are we able to insure those trees?
Through to the CEO.
No, insurers, finance people, and engineers don't like calling trees assets. No offence to those to my right. So short answer is no, but that's where there is this, as Mr. Arms alluded to, an amenity value. There has been for a long time. It's never been locked down as Australian standard. They've tried to get it. I'm presuming it's still in draft, an ever perpetuating draft of amenity value. So there is ways of quantifying what that does in terms of services to, stormwater management, larger trees, delay stormwater. So there is ways of quantifying that. And the trees out the front in Darling Street are a good example of you have much more rapid growth. It's a very dense urban environment with roads and infrastructure and stormwater and electricity as well. So you do get a better asset in terms of a tree. We'll call it small a asset. But you can't insure them, no. Unless there'd be one particular rare example or something, but I think you'd struggle to afford the policy.
So the Stockholm method in itself is an insurance policy for those trees?
To the CEO.
It certainly prevents you having those difficult conversations. When I was a tree management coordinator at Randwick City Council, where trees planted in the 30s and 40s were tearing up houses and infrastructure, it certainly prevents you having to remove trees when they're still very healthy and big, but because they're so big and healthy, they're tearing apart other assets that belong to people and energy providers, etc. So it is an investment into both the tree and the surrounding urban infrastructure.
Are there any further comments or questions? As there are none, we will go. Sorry.
Let's have one more thing.
Oh, CEO, one more thing.
Just in terms of that, and sorry, it just came to me. So Darling Street was a part of a reconstruction of that road. We got it handed back to us when it wasn't no longer the highway. So as part of renewing that asset, incorporated. So there's some of the questions we've had about how can we spread our money further. That was incorporated into that road reconstruction as part of the beautification. So whilst we're digging up and redoing the road, you could build those tree vaults as well. So there's other ways you can squeeze efficiencies out of construction as well. I'd say, Mr. Ryan, we're going through a design process for Talbragar Street to be ready for also to seek external funding. That would be an obvious street where you design these tree vaults, again, very dense, lots of infrastructure. You can't afford water pipes and stormwater to be compromised. But that's where you'd include that in that capital work. So it wouldn't necessarily be a straight tree project, if that makes sense. Thanks, Council. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or debate? As there are none, I will go back to the mover, Councillor Black. No right of reply, thank you. I will now open the electronic voting. And I'll close it. And I declare that carried. We'll move on to, the next item for consideration in the Cultural and Community Committee is deemed by the Chief Executive Officer to be confidential. Can I now have someone move to defer item CCC 25/20 to be dealt with at the end of the Corporate Services Committee in the confidential session? Councillor Chowdhury and Councillor Wright, seconder. Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your? Oh, good. Thank you. Now start the voting. I declare that carried. As there are no further items, I declare the Culture and Community Committee closed, time being 6:10.
I now open the May 2025 Corporate Services Committee meeting, the time being 6:11 p.m. Oh, pen. Okay. Item CSC 25/23, leave of absence. I have a request for leave of absence from Councillor Dickerson. Moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Now put the motion to electronic voting. I'll now close the voting. This one.
Yep, perfect. Stop the voting.
Oh. Okay. And yes. I'll now close the voting and declare the motion carried unanimously. Okay. Item CSC 25/24. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? Right, moving on. Item CSC 25/25, report of the Villages Committee meeting on the 14th of April 2025. Do I have a motion? Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further debate? That's all I have to do now.
Yep, if there's nothing further.
Okay.
No right apply.
Nothing further? I now put the motion to the vote. I'll open the electronic voting. Oh, okay, fine. Fine then. Don't need me. Might as well go. I'll now close the voting. And I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item CSC 25/26, report of the Wellington Town Committee meeting, the 16th of April 2025. Do I have a motion? Councillor Butler, a second. Councillor Toynton. Councillor Butler, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thanks.
Yep.
So I just wanted to draw attention to the final part of the meeting where it talked about general business, and there was a number of things there, but I believe there's an omission, and I'd like to have that added if that's possible. And that omission was that we did discuss that the possibility of the town council to oppose the renewable energy infrastructure that's being brought into the area, and that's missing from the record.
To the CEO.
Councillors, what we don't do is capture conversation minutes, and that's a well-established practice. I would think that is covered in the topic, and I'm just going to the page, I do apologise, where it describes the Central West Arana Renewable Energy Zone. And so there were lots of matters discussed within that umbrella. If council chose to, so what you would do is you've moved the recommendation, but you are asking for, let me just double check, the recommendation, bear with. So it's that the report of the the Wellington Town Committee be noted. So you're asking for an adjustments to the record there to show that particular topic is what you're asking for.
Yes,
is that correct?
Precisely, yeah.
Yes. I just would encourage councils that we considered it as being covered by that umbrella topic. So that could be added if we so choose.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to add it, and I think it's not covered under renewable energy sources. I think that's a different topic because the source is not the same as opposition to it. And I think it needs to be noted that otherwise it skews the presentation. It makes it look like that everybody there was very happy with all the things that were going on in renewable energy, and that's not necessarily the case. So it
Just point of order, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Councillor Wright.
If I may, look, I think the point of the minutes themselves are just to capture the general topics that were discussed, not the individual opinions of each of the people at the meetings. Those minutes could extend for pages and pages if that was the case. I might suggest that maybe Councillor Butler might be able to take a moment to explain his thoughts on one of those points, possibly, and use that opportunity now. But I'm just not willing to support that, unfortunately.
To you, to the CEO.
If you just give us a moment to check the particular point of order on the code of meeting practice. If you give us a moment, Madam Chair.
We'll just adjourn for 2 minutes while we're just double checking something. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. So I've reached a decision and I will support Councillor Wright's point of order. And I'll throw to the CEO.
So it's under the terms of reference, the Code of Meeting Practice for the Wellington Town Committee. It talks about the minutes of the meetings, the details of any outcomes reached during the meeting, noting these outcomes do not bind the council to any action. So whilst that is a view expressed, it's not an outcome per se. So that is why in the general business, it's kept at the high level of topic, not as opinions expressed during that discussions. And that's hence the ruling by the chair.
Can I make a quick comment then? Well, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair?
Yes, Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm agreeing with what you're saying. But I feel a number of those other things were also not outcomes and were opinions expressed. So they're on the similar level to what I was sharing. So.
To the CEO.
So just for clarification, there's no opinions expressed about positivity or negativity. You know, that's the difference. They're themes, if that's the logic. So that's why they're not outcomes. That's why under general business, they're not in bold, so it's not an outcome, but they've captured the theme of discussion. So we're not dropping in down to individual opinions of individual members of committees expressing views. It's kept at that high level. So I hope that clarity, there's not a positive or negative on either of those topics. So that's the logic. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, can I?
Yes, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To you, CEO. Yes, I agree. So then the subheading would be, how would you say, not that as a negative or a positive, but that the potential opposition to the renewables was brought up. So it's not positive, it's not negative, it's just a topic of discussion.
To the chair.
Yeah, you've introduced you've got renewables, you've got a renewable energy zone. I think that covers that because you're saying a perspective on that overarching topic. So to the chair's point, I think that is no different to what the chair's already made a ruling on it. That would be inappropriate to raise that again, given there's been a ruling by the chair. That, if I may say, that's not to stop you expressing the reason we have council representatives on these community committees. That is not preventing a council from expressing their views as to the types of discussion. That is different to the minutes. That is what we seek councillors to do in reporting back to a body like this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further debate?
So, sorry. He had a point of order, so Lucas has still got the floor.
Okay. To you, Councillor Butler, I think. Okay.
Yes. All right. Well, just then, maybe just obviously not to be entered into the record, as you pointed out. But what I did mention was that to canvass in the room if there was anybody else who, again talking about renewables and that, but maybe you could say slightly different in the sense that it was to do with looking forward into the future of Wellington, and the topic of discussion in that sense was to do with being concerned that our future that we would hand to our children would be one that was, I believe, unattractive, and that would be multitudinous white poles with fans on the top and lakes of mirrors in regards to the aesthetic of Wellington, which is generally regarded perhaps as a tree change, not as a mirror and a pole change. And I did, that was what I was trying to canvass. Was there anybody else who was likewise concerned with that, what I feel as a dystopian future? And there was nobody else that felt the same way as me. So maybe that's just all that we needed to recognise. Yep.
Any further debate? Councillor Ovey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to add some comments that Councillor Butler has raised. Certainly at that meeting, there was, the renewable energy was a major topic of conversation, as it obviously is in Wellington. It has the potential to change the whole nature of that environment in many ways, and that certainly is recognised. It was discussed, and I think just generally my Councillor Butler and I have different opinion about renewables. I am a proponent and in favour, but I do recognise that within the community there is a substantial degree of opposition. to the renewable development, and I think we as a council have to take that on board. We have to be aware of it. I think a lot of the opposition is probably driven by misinformation and misunderstanding, but we have a role then, if I'm right in saying that, we have a role in countering that misinformation and misunderstanding. But as I say, I think just to dismiss it and say, oh no, the people who are opposed it, we're not going to take any notice of them. One, that is a mistake, and secondly, I don't think that we as a council really should do that. We should be aware of it. We had the Renewable Energy Zone committee meeting last night in Wellington, and again, the people there were very positive and most are in favour. But underlying that, and I've had phone calls and representations from members of the public whose opinion I respect, who says that we don't want them. If we had our say, we wouldn't have the renewable development. Now, I think there are very compelling arguments why Wellington should and our LGA area should get renewables, but we as a council have to be careful that we do articulate properly what those benefits are. Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, look, I'm in two different minds with these renewables, and it's all right for the community to say we don't want them or we don't want that, but at the end of the day, there's someone that is selling their land to these people. I think they're going to take a bit of ownership. I know they're just going to cash it in and run anyways, but they're the guys that are leaving our community and our neighbours and everyone in the lurch with what's coming. So it's easy for I see both sides, and that's it's there just needs to be a bit of the community can't just blame council or anyone else. They need to look at their next door neighbour who's just cashed out millions for their land and say, well, thanks for that. Now we're stuck with this.
Any further debate? Councillor Butler, would you like a right of reply?
I just wanted to thank Councillor Ivey and Councillor Ryan for their additional comments, and I think that is very pertinent, and I'm very grateful. So, but yeah, in terms of right of reply, I think we've already discussed. So thank you for discussing. Yeah.
I'll now open the electronic voting and put the motion to the vote.
You can change it.
I'll now close the voting. So the motion is actually passed. Okay. Next item, CSC 25/27, investment under Section 625 of the Local Government Act, April 2025. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chowdhury. And do I have a second? Councillor Wells. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further debate? No? Oh, Councillor Butler?
A question mainly. So in background, which is on page 14, and there's a number of inset paragraphs with letters A, B, C, D, E. E talks about a deposit with the New South Wales Treasury Corporation or investment in an hourglass investment facility of the New South Wales Treasury Corporation. I have asked previously about what exactly an hourglass investment facility is, but it was taken on notice, but I've never actually been noticed or notified. So I was just wondering if I could ask that question again as to what exactly is an hourglass investment.
Taken on notice, Madam Chair. Councillor, apologies, haven't got that to you, but we'll get that in the next hot topics for this Friday.
Thank you, yes.
Keep again to turn your microphone on. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like a right of reply?
I'm good, thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll now put the motion to the vote. I'll now close the voting and declare the motion carried unanimously. Item CSC 25/28, Community Insights 2025 check-in survey results. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chowdhury, Councillor Black seconded. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just briefly make a comment. It's good to see a council took the initiative and check with our community people to see how everything is traveling. And just through you, Madam Chair, actually, I have one question. So we have seen only 124 people been engaged with this survey. How that 124 been selected? And there's some key point been in the report showing a dissatisfied, they are a bit dissatisfied. So if I can get some update from the relevant staff. Thank you.
To the CEO.
Ms. Brown.
Thank you very much for the question through you, Madam Chair. This check-in survey follows up our in-depth community insight survey last year, and it was a resolution of council to follow up this year with a bit of a pulse check to see. In previous reports, we've talked about having our ratepayer base and the demographics in our ratepayer base, and in our community check-in survey last time, we surveyed 500 people who are a statistically valid sample of our ratepayer base across the local government area. This time, we've done another subset of that 500. So we went out to all of them and contacted them and asked them to participate. And of that, a smaller number were consented and participated in this check-in survey. You will see, however, that I think it does still have a really strong and valid representation of our community, particularly people who we really want to reach and hear their voices, community, culturally and linguistically diverse members of our community, members of our First Nations community, and also people who live in places outside of Dubbo, and they were well represented in the survey. Overall, we received strong feedback, a strong satisfaction, but as you say, there were a number of small points that people raised that they were not satisfied with, and they listed them out. So people not satisfied with the way we're communicating with them, small percentages, but a number of them that we need to consider and make sure that we make the changes to meet the needs of the community.
Any further debate? Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious. I mean, last year's there was about 500 plus people who participated. This year, 124. The indication is that it's for ratepayers. So one question is, why don't we try and get non-ratepayers to be able to participate? And if so, how? Just leave it at that question for now. Thank you.
To Ms. Brown?
Through you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. We also have an additional opt-in survey that's open to everyone across the survey, the LGA. So in conjunction with our statistically valid check-in, we also have an open call for feedback. The last time we received 700 responses to that, and this time over 100 responses to an open call as well. So that's open to anyone, not part of the statistically valid set, and then it allows, and we also have that feedback as well and analyse that feedback. Interestingly, very similar results in our statistically valid survey that we ran with people opting in. Higher numbers of people responding from outside Dubbo, which was really good to see. And yeah, similar levels of satisfaction and issues raised.
Isn't there a sample which shows there's renters as well? So you want to just call that out? It's on page 44.
I'll also ask Ms. Pickering to comment.
Thank you, through you. The samples that we undertook with our check-in surveys, we undertook our statistical phone survey. We also did an opt-in community survey, input survey. So in terms of the Community Insights phone survey, community were sampled. We caught that demographic and that sampling profile, and we do have some stats around our ratepayer status. So 77% of ratepayers were surveyed versus 23%. And you can see also, if you further go through the report a little bit further, some of those results are also, in terms of those satisfaction levels, are broken out into ratepayers and our community profile. So we can dive a little deeper through some of that data. Thank you.
Councillor Cowley, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think most of it has been answered, but just for those of us, myself included, who are not statistically minded, could we just have an explanation of how 124 survey respondents represents a valid cross-section of our community, please?
To Ms Brown?
I'll throw
Oh.
to the relevant manager, actually.
So our research provider, Micromix Research, they set out with a goal to canvass, I think, 200 survey participants from previous phone participation. So the 124 completes is what they came up with. I'm not sure exactly how many of that 500 they actually canvassed, but they were the completed. And they did that through various methods. Not only just phone calls, they also sent text messages and follow-up messages to provide an opportunity for them to, while the phone may have not been convenient at that point in time, they could still complete an online survey.
So, sorry, supplementary question. So with a population as vast as ours, why are we confident that 124 people give us an adequate and appropriate and representative? Thank you, Councillor Butler.
I suppose.
Snapshot.
Sorry, thank you, and through you, Jess. Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair, I'll through you to Ms Pickering.
Thank you. The statistically valid was the 500. Being that this is a pulse check, we weren't trying to go out with another statistically valid sample. We were just reaching back out to community in the hopes that we would get some more data to sort of give us, that sense of changes of, priorities, changes in satisfaction.
And also, just to add to that, on page 43 of the report, sample selection and error, it says that a sample size of 124 residents provides a maximum sampling error of plus or minus 8.8% at 95% confidence. This means that if the survey was replicated with a new universe of 124 residents, 19 times out of 20, we would expect to see the same results.
Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, I think it's important to, as I understand it, this survey is not the same survey that was done before, where we went out to get a representative sample of the whole LGA or the whole, to find out what they're thinking. What this is saying is, of those people who replied before, how have they changed their opinion in the last 12 months? And that in itself can be very useful information. You're not trying to say that their opinion is representative of the whole LGA. What you're saying is, of the people who took trouble to reply before, what do they think now? And that's a different outcome.
Any further debate? Councillor Toynton?
Yeah, just a question. What was the cost of this survey?
To the CEO?
Ms Brown?
$9,000.
Any further debate? Councillor Ryan?
Look, more of a comment than debate, but again, I think ownership has to come back a little bit to community. I think council has done everything possible: phone calls, text messages, social media. If only 120 something people actually did it, you know, there's no excuse now to complain about something that you didn't take 5 minutes out of your time to actually fulfill. So, yeah, or respond to. I think council's done a great job in all of these ways that they've marketed it, you know, with the your say, the targeted emails, the text message. There's not much more you can do. You can lead horse to water, you can't make it drink. So if people want to jump up and down and say, oh, you know, this is wrong, well, mate, have a good look at yourself and jump on and actually fill out the forms, do the surveys.
Any other debate? I'll just add a comment. I agree with what Councillor Ryan's actually said, that people do need to take a little bit of responsibility and stop blaming council for everything. Now, Councillor Chowdhury, would you like a right of reply?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll now put the motion to the vote and I'll open the voting. I'll now close the voting and the motion was carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda, CSC 25/29, monthly reporting snapshot for councillors, April 2025. Do I have a motion? Councillor Black, seconded Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, it's all in the report. Thank you.
Any further debate on this one? Councillor Black, would you like a right of reply to nothing? I'll put this motion to the vote. I'll close the voting and the motion's passed unanimously. Oh, what happened then? Okay. Okay. Next item, CSC 25/30, review of community funding and financial assistance policy. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? Councillor Wright? And seconded Councillor Chowdhury. We'll now I'm off again. We'll now have receive a presentation from the Corporate Strategy and Performance Coordinator.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you. My name's Zara Jom and I'm Council's Corporate Strategy and Performance Coordinator. We appreciate that there is a significant amount of detail in the report before you and would like to thank you for your time while we provide you with a short presentation on the proposed community funding framework and financial assistance policy. Cool. The proposal put to you tonight considers feedback received from community, including successful and unsuccessful applicants, staff at all levels supporting the process, and the resolution to review all existing funding programs put forward by Councillor Dickerson in October 2024. This slide is a quick representation of the current financial assistance policy and the relationship to the redesigned approach. Currently, there are 10 separate funds or programs, and for context, the current policy format, funds typically have a budget allocation of X amount, whereas a program would typically not have a dedicated budget allocation. In the current format, the elected body would typically see reports at various times of the year seeking approval to award funding, such as underneath the Spark Support Fund, the Event Assistance Fund, Community Services Fund, and Dubbo Regional Sports Council Playing Field Improvement Fund, and the Badangra Wind Farm Community Benefit Fund. Each of the active funding channels has its own set of guidelines or eligibility criteria, application, evaluation processes, acquittals and reporting requirements and timelines, and several internal teams support the maintenance and administration of these funds. This multi-channel approach is considered to be a root cause of a number of pain points felt by both applicants and staff, as it heavily relies on applicants knowing what fund they should be applying for and at what times. I'll note at this point that the mayoral discretionary fund, the Dubbo Regional Sports Council Playing Field Improvement Fund, and specific non-contestable funds for destination events are not included as part of the redesigned approach from the applicant's perspective. Both the current and proposed approaches seek to fund activities that are of benefit to our community. In the new approach, we seek to align language styles to the 2025-2029 delivery program and towards 2040 community strategic plan aspirations, putting a focus on the investment areas of community connections, creative and culture, and partnerships and events. The proposal collates the primary funds into one $250,000 annual bucket of funds, and those primary funds are the Community Services Fund, the Spark Support Fund, and the Event Assistance Fund, excluding those destination event funds, with Council awarding meritorious applications that are strongly aligned to the adopted strategic plans of the community and council. Included in the report is quite a detailed application process from the applicant's perspective, which is the flowchart in blue that you'll see. The slide that you have in front of you is the general timeline showing the maximum 18-month delivery period that we've proposed. The redesigned approach seeks to simplify and streamline the applicant journey and experience. In turn, we believe this will achieve an efficient and more effective use of staff resources required to maintain, administer, and manage the funding allocations. This would be achieved through one application form submitted when convenient to the applicant, 2 active assessment periods per financial year, 1 assessment panel, improved approval processes, a longer delivery period, and a uniform acquittal and reporting process. We anticipate that the applicant's effort can be put into a strong application that showcases alignment to strategic plans and evidences community benefit outcomes, rather than having to navigate multi-channel pathways to seek funds from council. This is a significant shift from the current processes, and should the proposal be endorsed, we would seek feedback in August 2026 on the new process for further consideration by council. A key next step in enacting this new proposal is for council to ensure that the right governance framework is in place to guide the process. This being the council policy financial assistance, which has been drafted and is being put to you tonight, seeking endorsement for public exhibition. Our desire is to seek community feedback on the new policy and framework, consider that feedback and present back to you in July the results of that feedback alongside a finalised process for community funding.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to your motion?
Only to say that, look, thanks for that presentation from Ms. John, but that certainly explains a lot of it. But I just encourage the community to have a look at this. The feedback I've constantly got is that there were a number of streams, and there was a lot of confusion with respect to when to apply, what stream to apply to, and so certainly this new policy set seems to address that. So yeah, keen to hear what the public's thoughts are on it as well.
Any further debate? Councillor Ivey?
Just a comment, I suppose, that I think one of the good things about it is that instead of having perhaps to wait for 6 months or even 12 months to apply for funding under a certain stream, if there is the opportunity to do that more often, in other words, if it comes out quarterly, I'm sure that the community will get advantage, get benefit from that, because most of the, obviously by definition, they're volunteer organisations. They're not thinking too far ahead. They're certainly not thinking 12 or 18 months ahead to apply for $5,000 to help run the canteen or something. So just that alone, I think, is going to improve the efficiency of the whole funding schemes.
Any further debate? Councillor Wright, would you like a right of reply?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll now open the voting. I'll now close the voting and the motion's passed unanimously. Items, excuse me, item CSC 25/31, Proposed Village Roadshow Program 2025. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chowdhury. Do I have a second? Councillor Black.
I have an alternative, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I have a number one is the council consider the information contained within the report of the corporate strategy and performance coordinator dated 28th April 2025. Number two, that council endorse the proposed village roadshow program attached at appendix 1 to be delivered on Tuesday evening over a number of months to be completed by the November 2025. That number three is the date is the best fit for our canvassed with councillors. Number four, that further consultation be undertaken with the village committee and the following support from the community representatives, venue and transport arrangement be progressed.
Thank you. Can I have a second for that motion? Councillor Cowley? Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, it's good to see council is progressing this roadshow because all this my fellow councillor will be agree because we have a lot of time hearing that our village has not been heard, so it's really a good way to move forward and we can listen to their concern and then we can look for some solution for them. Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Wells?
Probably just really reiterating and agreeing with Councillor Chowdhury around how important it is for villagers to be heard and be a part of the conversation. So it's really good that we've progressed this and it'll be even better to get the feedback from the community as we go around. Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Chowdhury, would you like a right of reply?
I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll put the motion to the vote. I'll close the voting. The motion's been passed unanimously. Items CSC 25/32, Land Classification, Lot 160, DP 1301296, being part of St Bridget's Circuit in Dubbo. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
Only to say that it just tidies up some paperwork there. Thank you.
Any further debate? Do I still have to ask you? No. Okay. I'll now put the motion to the vote. I'll close the voting and it's been passed unanimously. So I read that out, don't I? The next items for consideration are deemed to be confidential. The streaming will now be turned off and any members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on these matters, with the resolutions to be made public. Please stop the web streaming. The committees return to open session at 7:12 p.m. Welcome back. I'll now ask the Governance Officer to play the resolutions from the confidential session. There are no further items for consideration of the Corporate Services Committee, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 7:13 p.m. Web streaming is now being completed. Thank you for your attendance.
Just in time.